Okay.
Okay, so I'm so excited on my channel today. We're going to talk with Briara Jones of Mental Sugar. She's an embodiment coach. And I think that we both there's just so much manifesting magic, and I'm really excited to chat with you about creating an essence, really creating a powerful environment so that you can attract from that space. And that also allows you to stay in a higher vibration, especially when things are challenging. So we're just going to kind of flow and see what comes up. Because I know that we both have so much magic here to share. And yeah. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I am Briara. I go by Mental Sugar. It's just my, stage name. And embodiment has really been a big deal for me. I've gone through different kinds of, I would say, the way I guide others, and embodiment just seems so much more at home for me. And so this does go along perfectly with what we're talking about today, because embodiment isn't just in the body, it's in your space too. So I think it's perfect.
Yeah, and there's so many things that can help support you in embodying what you want, especially when it's new for you. So let's talk about embodiment maybe just for a second, if anyone's watching who isn't familiar with that term. So to me, it's you can, if you're watching this, you probably really are into personal development or manifesting or anything of that kind of realm. And you can learn so much, but if you're not really embodying it, you're not going to be attracting from that space, because then it's just an intellectual thing. It's not, it's something but it's not something that you're being. And yeah, with manifesting, it's just you manifest from your point of being, from the vibration that you are being. So
exactly. Yeah, that was perfect. And I feel also embodiment, it can feel uncomfortable for a lot of people, because we're always in our minds trying to strategize and trying to figure things out. And embodiment just tells you, who do you have to be though? Who do you have to be in order to walk that alignment? And so it brings you into your body instead of so much in your mind. And I love that, because I honestly think we spend too much time in our mind, and there's only so much that can progress us that's living up there. You know what I mean? So discomfort and everything is felt in the body. And so that's where we need to be to understand and to guide us out of the discomfort. It's all in the body, in this space. So
yeah, beautifully said. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many places I want to go with this. So I feel like a good example to kind of talk about that is, if you're a woman watching this, I would always, years ago, I would have these different women, I still do have these different women I looked up to. And I was like, what is it that I admire about these women? What is it really, how are they being? And how can I step into that? So for example, if you're feeling not confident, you're feeling insecure, but you see this person who's a role model for you in some realm, and you're like, she's so confident, how is she being? You could read all the confidence books in the world and have all the information up here of I should feel confident, but until you bring it in, okay, but how is this woman? So for me, this is what really helps me learn how to do it. How is this woman holding herself that she's radiating this confidence, or whatever it might be? What are the things that she's doing every day? And doing even could that could get us mixed up in the mind a bit too, but it's how is she holding herself? How is she thinking about herself? What are the types of things she says to herself? So it's then when you really get into that phase, it's just, when you start actually being it, it's whoa, things are happening really quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfect. I totally agree. Yeah. It's something I realized too. It's you know me, I'm all about the feelings. How are you feeling? How do you feel in the body? And something that I realized as well is that when you're wanting to hold a feeling, because the feeling is the path, the feeling is the, you know, the filter of how you're reacting and being with others and everything like that. But sometimes I want to say, like, your default feeling where you are at work may be different than the feeling you feel at home. So it's like you have to be aware of, okay, at home, my baseline is I'm pretty peaceful in my own space. How do I want to feel? I want to feel a little more excited. So then, you know, you're going from peaceful to a little excited. So then you're grooming your space and filtering your space in a way that, okay, it was so exciting when my grandma got me this comforter. That's what I think about when I wake up in the morning. And I was like, yeah. So then I'm, you know, filtering my space into you know, a filter of excitement. But at work, you can be like, okay, my baseline is like, my baseline is what's a good one? Like dull, like frustrated, you know. So from there, you have to figure out, okay, I don't want to feel frustrated at work. I'm not yet to excitement. I can't get there yet, but I can realistically be peaceful, right? So then you are realistically, you know, staggering where you are in every space into a I want to say realistic, but it's like you're not passive.
Not like too much of a stretch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're acknowledging where you're ready to be, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, I want to be excited everywhere. And then you try to hold it. I'm trying to do that, like at work. I'm like, I'm trying to hold the excitement, but it falls so fast because I'm like, okay, we're not here yet. So we're gonna go for peaceful. We're gonna bring some crystals into the office.
Yes.
We're gonna
The universe is like, I know you're faking. Like, you can't trick
yeah.
me. Like, you gotta really feel it.
Yeah, and it's like you laugh at yourself and then you realize, okay, we're gonna stagger it, because you get so much farther when you meet yourself where you are, right? So
yeah, and I love that you brought that up so much, because I think probably a lot of the people watching this are in that space where it's like they're at a job that they maybe don't like, and they really want to be doing something different, or maybe they're building something on the side or have multiple businesses, whatever. And like,
yeah,
for me, that was so important, and something I taught when I was really helping people leave their jobs is like, you have to get to a space at work that, because you're vibrating all the time. So if you're vibrating 8 hours a day at this job, like, don't make it that dread, doleful, like, oh my God, 4 minutes have passed since I looked at the clock the last time. Like, get it to a neutral space. Or even gratitude really helps me, because when I started, I was like hateful about the job. Like, I'm like, why do I have to be here? Like, this is such bullshit. Like, but then I switched it to, I did, just like you said, brought in the crystals, brought my salt lamp. I'm like, okay, it feels a little more homey, because this is like the things that make me feel like myself. Exactly. And then I remember I would look out the window, and it was in Orlando at the time. And there would be like all these construction workers working outside. I'm like, I'm so blessed. Like, I get to have AC. Or like, look at the comfy chair I have, you know, like finding little pieces in your job that, or in whatever situation it might be. Maybe it's like you're watching your kid and you're like, God, I just wish I had free time, and you're a stay-at-home mom, you know, like, I mean, obviously your child's probably going to give you a lot of joy, but my point is just any situation you find yourself in that you're like, this isn't where I want to be, you know. It's like
exactly
acceptance and finding something to be really grateful for, because that will bring you up on that vibrational scale. And just like you were saying, then you can jump to the next one and jump to the next one. And then you're like, somehow I'm excited to be here at work. Like, I don't know how that happened, but I like it.
Yeah. And it's so and that's the magic I feel too, because even the job I have now, you know, with COVID and things like that, we've gone to a lot more flexible schedule. And so I knew that's something that I wanted. Like, unfortunately, it came with this experience, but you know, I strongly believe when you're in the vibration of the things that you want, they come. We don't know how they're going to come or how they're going to manifest, but I enjoy working from home, you know, and it's also in the fact that when you are being your true self, people notice. So even at the job I have now, I love it so much more because they changed my position, because they noticed me on social media. They noticed me on my podcast, right? And they noticed me, you know, the way I like type things out and things like that. So now I'm like a social media manager. And I'm like, I love that so much more. It is like I still have fun with the kids that I work with. I work in nonprofit, but it was just so cool how that happened because, you know, I just showed up being me, being in that vibration, not feeling like I need to hide what I do outside of work. And they're like, you're so good. Like, can you help us? I was like, yeah. So it's like, it's such a, it's beautiful what happens when you just let yourself be, you know, what we were saying, like just be, right? So
Yeah, I love that.
yeah,
That's awesome. So I think this
yeah.
is a great opportunity to switch kind of into some of the things that stop us from being, and how we can add things in our life, like in our
Hmm.
environment, that help us to get more into a space of that.
Oh
So
yes.
what I mean by that first is, like, we can overanalyze so many things being
Oh
in
my
our
gosh.
mind and not in our body. And it's like, okay, if I just can get present for a moment, like, mind, stop talking. A really good
Yeah.
question I found, I was rereading the book The Power of Now, and
Ooh.
Eckhart Tolle was like, ask yourself, like, I'm curious what my next thought is going to be. And then you get so present and you're like, oh, this thought isn't helpful, or this
Mm.
thought isn't whatever, or, or you probably think something more positive than maybe you would have.
Yeah. That's
And
a
I
good
think
one.
so many of us are like, we have such busy lives, and we're doing a million things, and we're like so praised for being in the masculine and for being, logical, and like, oh, she really gets things done, and being is such a feminine state. And it's like, I feel like we don't have too many examples of that, maybe other than like the creative space, because
Yeah.
people who are like, famous writers or famous directors, like, they kind of have to be in that creative space to create their work. They're not like, let me
Hmm.
think about this, and that's how a beautiful work of art is created. Like, a painter's not like, let me
Yeah.
think about this.
Yeah.
So it's
For
like
sure.
that can block our getting into the body so much. So I want to ask you a couple things. So what are some
Yeah.
of the things you've kind of implemented in your environment? And you can like even see in how you're showing up right now. What are some of the
Yeah.
things you've implemented that maybe if you're like in your mind a little too much, or if you're feeling like, okay, I'm off the track of this vibration that I want to be on, just like you said, like, how do I want to feel? What are some of those things that have supported you in getting back into that higher vibration?
Oh yeah. I would say number one, I feel like it's like don't be afraid to take a nap. That's like
So
my
good.
number. I feel like right now that's my number one. And to be honest, when I moved into this space, I was honestly so quick to wanting to leave. Like I was in boxes for the longest time. And I think because this was my very first apartment anyway. And I live like in a kind of like the city area of town. And so I was like, I want to be like in a suburban, like I don't want to be with all the noise and whatever. And one day I was just like, Briara, make this your home because you're going to be here for a bit. And once I let myself, you know, feel at home, I would say, in my space, then I started to cultivate the space. But at first, I was just like, you need to make this feel like a home. Like that's what you've always wanted. This is your space. Make it how you want it. And there's so much freedom in knowing that, and freedom in, you know, giving yourself that. So I was so obsessed with making it look like how I would want it to look. And now I really favor, like what you're asking, like naps. And also stillness is huge for me. I have like multiple spaces where pillows are just on the ground where I sit and I just close my eyes. I put my timer on for 11 minutes and I do that as much as I need to. And just in the moment of like separating the thoughts, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah. So I would say naps. I would say stillness. I would say definitely my books. I'm like addicted to books. So
Like,
I
which
try
way?
not to just, yeah. I try not to have too many like self-development books on me, like on my person, because I like to read a lot, but I feel like that gets me out of Briara, mentality.
Yeah.
So I have more so like fairy tale books that I carry around. And if I need that, like, I don't want to say escape, but separation from, the stress and going back into either neutrality or back into, you are the creator of your life, then I love to grab a fairy tale book. So.
Oh, I love that. That's and that's like just so you. That's so much of what, like, I haven't thought about, because I was saying before when we were planning this a little bit, I was like, I love your essence. It's so just like, when I see it somewhere else, I'm like, that's Briara. Like that's like, this is so her. Like I associate that with you now. And that's the fairy thing. I'm like, yes, she has so much fairy tale magic in her. So that's just really interesting. Okay, let's go back to naps because first of all, do you know your human design?
Yes, I do.
What are you?
I'm a projector.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. So for projectors, naps are like a whole thing. And because I'm a projector as well. So it's like naps for me, first of all, there's like stigma around naps, but why?
Yeah.
You don't need to take like a 5-hour nap. It could be a quick 30 minutes. But sometimes it's just like, for me, it's this literally happened the other day. I was just like in a funk and I was trying to read this book. Actually, I was trying to read a book to get myself out of the funk, and it's like, this isn't working, and my body is just like, girl, just sleep for a little bit. Like that's what you actually need. You just need a little bit of, like, I don't know, whatever is created when you sleep. A little like serotonin. You just need a little break. Just go sleep for 20 minutes. And then when I woke up, I felt so much better. And sometimes I do take longer naps because I'm just like in a space in my life where I can do that. Like I don't have kids or anything, or like many responsibilities. So it's a lot harder if you have like 100 children running around, but it's like, naps are so, who was it that, I think it was maybe Napoleon Hill. He wrote Think and Grow Rich, I think. He's written a lot of like really influential books. But he talked about like, power naps are one of the best things that you can do for your energy, instead of like, I'm just going to keep dragging throughout the whole day. And then you're in that like Eeyore energy for the rest of the day. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So,
I totally agree
that.
with that. I feel like, I know for me anyway, my thoughts, like how should I say? We get in the way of a lot of our own natural alignments. Like our body is always trying to tell us how to get back into the flow, how to get back into your natural alignment of abundance, of receiving, of calling in. And we think we know from our ego standpoint of, we need to like hustle through, or we need to, ignore the rest that we need because rest isn't praised, and we avoid it so much to the point where when you just rest inside yourself and really feel your way through what you're feeling, a lot of the times the answer is rest, or, put on your favorite song and dance through it, because those are things that we don't have so much importance over, and we should, and I was reading this one book. I think it's quantum something. I thought I was going to get like a 300-page book when I bought this book. It's like literally 12 pages. That's like what you call, yeah, that's what you call a quantum leap book, but it's so powerful. I would have to show it to you. But he was saying, like, in order to live a life that you would rather live, you have to get out of doing the things that you're really good at. So a lot of the times we're really good at overthinking. We're really good at, ignoring our feelings and hustling. We're really good at, you know what I mean? Doubting ourselves, going to others for advice. So you have to, like, that whole list of what we're really good at has to go out the window. So I've been preaching, like, to my clients and on my page, it's like, be more impulsive. And people are so afraid to do that. But when you are aligned with how you want to feel, and you have an impulse within that feeling, you need to just do it, because it's going to teach you something. It's going to bring you something, because the overthinking is continuing the story that you're not enough, right? The overthinking is continuing the story that you're not ready. But being impulsive will show you, girl, you've been ready for this. Like, so that's what I think.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think even when I heard you say the word impulsive, it's like the connotation even around that word is so like, oh, this person's not responsible, this person's not whatever. But it's actually like, what it really is you're just listening to your intuition. Your intuition's like, you should go to this place. And then when you go to that place, you meet the person who's going to give you everything that you want. Like, not necessarily romantically, but like, you're going to meet the person that helps you start the business, or you're going to meet the person that becomes your teacher, or you're going to like go to the place that gives you this idea that like brings forth what you've been asking for. And your mind's like, no, it costs too much. It's like, I shouldn't take time off work. Like,
right.
So I love that. Like, totally be more spontaneous. Like, the best decisions I've made have always been from that place, even though it scared me, because it's like out of our comfort zones. It's out of, you're looked at as not being responsible, or like, she's making some questionable decisions. And it's like, those are always the best ones. Like, the most beautiful things come out of those scenarios. And yeah, I love that.
For sure. Yeah. I love it
think too, I want to talk to one other thing that you talked about, in like making your house, your apartment, your home for however long you're going to be there. And like something that I've learned that as I've lived on my own, I've noticed like, oh, I have this, and I think a lot of people have this tendency of like, I'm going to buy this because it's on sale, or I'm going to buy this because like I feel like I should get it. But at some point I made this switch, and I was like, I'm only going to buy something if it brings me so much joy, and if I really truly love it. Like, nothing gets to be in my space if it doesn't like put a smile on my face. You know? Because then it's like you look around and you've got this closet full of junk and these drawers, and you're like, things are falling out of the drawers, and it's like, that doesn't feel good.
No, I totally agree with that too, because in the beginning it did feel like that. It felt like let's be honest. I had like a shopping addiction.
Many of us do.
Yeah. And so I was just buying things because I could, but at the same time, like you said, it didn't, I guess in the moment it felt good. Like, the transaction of it felt good, but in my space, it was just like, Briara, we're going to bring this to Goodwill, right? So it was like, and also I had to give myself permission to let myself buy expensive things, because that was also something that I was afraid to do. Like you said, is this responsible for me to buy the $80 crystal, or is it, smart for me to, what else expensive was it? that I bought. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but it's just the idea that what's in your space is an investment in your energy and how you feel. So me continuing to buy the little things and knowing that I rather have had that chair, but instead I got this chair because of the price. It like every day I looked at that chair, I was like reminding myself that, damn, I wish I had that other chair. And so that vibration does not help me. The feeling does not help me. It just reminded me that, I didn't feel, I don't want to say it like went into self-worth, but it sort of did. It was like, Briara, you deserve that chair. Like, don't think about the money, right? Because money is a continuous energy. Think about how, how you're going to feel when you wake up and see that, oh my gosh, that was so exciting when I got that chair. Like, wow. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So, yeah, I feel like I had to give myself permission to want the nicer things, and also to trust that, the money will arrive if it's a money thing that I'm worried about, or to trust that the reason I want this isn't just for my space. It's feeding me as well energetically. And the way I feel is so important. So, if that makes sense. I feel like
it totally does. No, it totally does. And it's like, I love how you said, when we buy so many like small things, they all would have added up maybe to the same price of the thing you really wanted. And it's like, I talk about this in my book so much, like we all have these shopping patterns, and like, what are your patterns? Because you really do have enough money for the things that you desire. It's like, when you take an audit of like, what are the things I'm actually buying though? Where could, like, are they all bringing me joy? Or, so like we were talking about books. I had to make a rule for myself because I'm just like such a book nerd. I read all the time. I've read so many books, and I used to order so many on Amazon. And I was like, I've got this whole stack of books I haven't read. I spent like $100 on books this month, all used. I bought, it's like, I'm not even, so I had to create this rule for myself that's like, I don't buy a book. Like, they will sit in the shopping cart. They will stay there. They're not going to go anywhere. And then when I'm ready to read them, I'll buy them. Or when I am almost ready to read them, I'll buy them. But I can't buy, like, for me, that's just what my impulse was. And then also, like back in the day in college, I would buy so much stuff from like Forever 21. Like, I was going out all the time, and I'm like, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. And it's all like inexpensive clothes, but it's like $100, $200 when you go to the shopping cart at the end when you check out. And so something I started doing, and I still do this to this day with like everything I buy, I just leave it in the shopping cart, and I'm like, I'm going to come back in a few days and see how I feel. And usually in a few days, I'm like, I don't need any of this. Like, and it's that transactional, like, serotonin hit you get, like you were talking about. It's like, in the moment, you feel like you might need this for something. But if you really wait and let the feeling pass, or let like just time go on, it's like, do I actually want these things? Or would I rather buy all these like cheap tank tops? Or would I rather buy the like Nordstrom tank top that's maybe triple the price, but it's going to last me for 20 years instead of 1 year? Like, that's not going to get holes in it. That's going to make me feel more like luxurious because it's a nice material and whatever. So, and there is such a permission slip we have to give ourselves sometimes of like, it's okay to want the nicer thing. Because sometimes there's these thoughts, like, this probably totally depends on what your money stories are and like how you grew up and all sorts of things. But like, for me, it's like, I can't spend like Free People, for example, or Anthropology, like stores like that, love all their stuff. And I'm like, this plate's $78. Like, it's one plate. But like, I have one cup from there that all my friends joke, because I use it. I like won't use other cups. It's so pretty. And I'm like, it was like a $25 cup, which is so stupid. It's just a glass cup. But it makes me feel so like glamorous. It makes me, even though it's just like a $25 cup, doesn't seem like a big deal. But it's, when you go to Target, they're like $2. Like, so it's like, just like what you were saying, when I'm drinking out of this cup, I'm like, I love this cup so much, versus like this cheap piece of plastic. Like, what? It shifts your whole day.
It really does. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it really, you don't even, like, I walk into my apartment and a lot of the times I don't even realize it until I slow down. Like, my apartment is trying to feed me the energy that I've cultivated it to be. You know, the
Cool.
magical, the fairy tale, the you create your reality. You know, that's how I want to feel, you know, in my
Yes.
space. My dad calls my apartment the cabana because I don't know why he just likes to call it that. But it's really a space that it's in my control with how, you know, this space looks and feels for me. And
Yeah.
so, like you said, and it helps you, right? When your space is holding you in this feeling you've created, it helps you to, you know, form the thoughts that feel better to feel, or
Yeah.
it will unconsciously guide you to take the bath with the lavender salts. You know, it'll bring you into who uh, who you want to be when the world may have, you know, taken you out of that alignment. Your
Yeah.
personal space, whether it's in your home or in your car, it should always bring you back to, okay, reminding me I'm in control of how I feel. In this space right now, I want to feel like a desire. Okay, you want to feel like a desire. What would a desire do in your space? She would take a bath. She would make some of her jasmine tea. She would have, I'm really into National Geographic right now. So she would have like the birds chirping in the background.
Of
Like,
course.
you know,
Yeah.
like she would make some candles because we love to make candles. And so it's just feeding yourself and being, I think also just being aware of what works for you. And that's included in your self discovery and letting yourself, you know, ah, play, letting yourself find out what feels good to do, right?
Hmm.
And I feel like that also came from me. It started out as like jealousy, right? Like when I would see the girls in their space, when I would see the girls like in their kitchen making the cute candles and things like that, I would think to myself, oh, I wish I had a space like that. I wish I had like all the stuff to make candles. And it's like, Briara, then why don't you? I'm like, okay, all right. And so it typically starts out as like a discomfort a lot of the times, in being able to be in your body and decipher, you know, I feel jealous of this girl because, okay, well, how can I be that? Like what we were saying before.
Yeah.
How can I bring this, you know, make my space feel the way that she made me feel when I saw her on, you
Yeah.
know, Instagram or in the ad, right? And so, like you said, it's that permission slip you give yourself to um, start saving for the things that are really cute, or start seeing yourself as the person who only, like you said, buys the things that feel enchanted, you know, instead of
Yes.
thinking like, I can't afford that. Well, yes, you can. You can, right? It's one thing at a
Yeah.
time. And
Hmm.
over time, you know,
And it's like
so
when you go to Target, look at what you end up with in your cart. It's like, what of this stuff do I actually need? What did I just pick up because it was cute, but it doesn't
mm,
actually add to that environment? And
yeah.
I also want to talk about, like, we've talked about a lot of ways of spending money that we can create this environment, but there's so
Mhm.
many things that you can do without spending any money. It's like, what do you start your morning off with? What are you listening to? Like, what is
Yeah.
the vibration that you're getting into in the morning? So I love to listen. Like, I
Mhm.
have a playlist on my Spotify called Sacred Mornings, and it's just like what you just said, like the birds chirping and like beautiful serene
Mhm.
music, not like something really fast. Sometimes it'll be fast paced if that's like the mood I'm in, but
Mhm.
something slow to start my day, so I'm not like getting into this anxious energy of like fast beats and like or even like disempowering type of music first thing in the morning. It like, that allows me to slow down into my day and not feel like, I feel like all of this is really so much of, for women watching, it's so much of like disintegrating all these like toxic masculine
Yeah.
behaviors that don't work for us. Like men and women are so different. Women are so cyclical and men are so linear, but we are trying to act, we've been taught to really act like men. It's like, that does not work for us. Like we attract in
Yeah.
a different way. So you can attract a certain amount from like being in your head all the time, being in your mind. But
Yeah.
what I was going to start off saying is like, just starting to implement slowly. Like, okay, I have jasmine tea at night, like you said. Or, okay, I'm going to start off my mornings just listening to music. And it's not things that you necessarily have to spend money on. So additionally, I actually just made this whole video I'm going to post on here later about like making your home an energetic vortex.
Yeah.
And like what the first piece of it is like, get rid of all the stuff that you don't need, doesn't make you happy, that you have, you know, you have 20 of the same thing that you really don't need. Like clear out the junk out, you know, so you can have more space for more magic to come in. And then it's like, when people do that, they're like, oh, this girl just sent me this beautiful candle, or I just received this like free thing in the mail. I just received this, or I found the perfect thing and it makes me so I got that chair finally and it makes me so happy looking at it in the morning. And I got all the money for it from like selling stuff I didn't even like. So yeah.
That's perfect. And what you said reminded me of like how you said it doesn't always have to be something that you're spending money on, or you know, doing things like that. And I totally agree. Especially the morning is it's a beautiful time. I know for me, I felt so much pressure in my morning to get in the vibration. Like I was like, because I'll just say this. Like what you're saying, masculine energy is very praised. And the way I was taught to cultivate a morning routine was it needs to be productive, right?
Yes.
Like at one point, my whole morning routine was like an hour and 30 minutes. And I'm like, that wasn't even fun. Like I did not feel good.
Check that off of the to-do list.
Yeah.
Like that's not how it's supposed to feel.
No, not at all. And you know, we learn our way through it. And that reminds me so much of, I used to watch this like video on YouTube, and it gets you like riled up and like, yeah, ready for the world. And they were all men, like all these muscle men, like, and I'm like, okay, I don't think this is right. And so they're like, get up at 4 a.m. It was like The Rock and everyone. And so I did it for a while. Like I was up at 4 a.m. and I was like on the verge of tears. And I was like, this isn't working. This is not working. And so it can be uncomfortable to trust your body to tell you what you need in the morning, but that's all it really is, right? It's tuning in, like you said, it's the slowness allows you to tune in, right? So you're not distracted by the morning routine to-do list, like you need to do this, you need to do this, 15-minute workout, you know, list all your things you need to do today. All that is kind of distracting you from trusting your body when you have that, you know, those things. And so I had to realize that, do I trust myself to get me into the feeling? And I said, I do. That was hard, but I was like, well, we tried the other way already. And so I had to trust myself to feel into, okay, what do I need this morning? I do know that stillness is always something that is works for me, and just separating, being the observer of my thoughts and not being the identity of my ego, of the fear and the doubt and the stress, and just being able to like stretch myself. I imagine myself like on an Aladdin carpet. This is what I do every morning. On like an Aladdin carpet, and I don't see myself, I see my feet like dangling kind of over it. And every time I let my thoughts like pass by, like, oh my God, what do I have to get done today? And then, it'll come in like, dang, I need to call my grandma. She's gonna think I'm a terrible person. And so like all these kind of thoughts will like go by, and then I'll pull myself out of it. And the observer is always the attitude of, you're growing, you're right on time, you're tuned in, you're supported, you're watched over. All of the feelings that God and spirit want you to really feel. And it's like that stretching out of like, hey, you're up here on this magical carpet. These thoughts are here, but you don't have to become those thoughts. You can look at them, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that is something that, if I were still like trying to construct and strategize my morning routine, I wouldn't have known that that works for me. You know what I mean? And so that's something that's always there. I love music. I love to stretch, some kind of moving of my body. And I just tune in and see like, how do I feel? Visualizations are always nice too. But I did realize that I can't focus too much on the future, because that just makes me more anxious. And so I have to bring the feeling here, right? And so that's where the environment comes in. That's where acknowledging, I love my comforter that my grandma gave me, and holding those feelings here in this reality, so you can move through it, feeling the feeling, right? So
Yeah. 100%. And I think like, so many things I want to say, like asking yourself every day, what does my body need today? What does my soul need today? Like, how do I want to start my morning? Because even for me, it's like sometimes, like I'll always have stillness in the morning of some kind, but I don't always want to just sit there and meditate. Like sometimes it's maybe I'll dance around and listen to music, or sometimes I'll just like look at things around the house, but I'm not sitting in that particular meditation position. Like, and it's like, what does my body need today? How does it want to express? But I think that we all do need that daily reminder of like, I am not my mind. There's someone else inside that's observing the thoughts. Who's observing the thoughts? Who's that? Like, so, okay, interesting. I'm not those thoughts. And like, whatever, I love your depiction of like the Aladdin magic carpet. It's like, whatever you need to do to get yourself to see that that's not your thoughts, that's not really you. That's like conditioning. I think that we need those reminders every day, because the mind is so powerful. And we've been trained to think that the mind is like so much more valid than what our heart says. And it's like, no, the mind takes you out of the present moment. The mind, like people are like, oh, you're such a great planner, you're so detail oriented. It's like, really? Because I just feel anxious as fuck. Like, like I'm constantly in the future. And it's like, that's something I've had to implement in my life, because like, I don't want to throw people out on the spot, but there's a lot of people around me who are very future focused, as I definitely have this habit, and I have to bring myself back. Like, what's happening in 3 months I don't need to think about that right now. But when other people try to pull me into those conversations, I'm like, that's in 8 months. We don't need to talk about that. Like, we don't need to talk about Christmas. It's April. Or we don't need to talk about like, even like some of my friends have been like, hey, let's go do this trip in a couple months. And I'm like, I can't plan out further than the week. Like, I don't know what I'm going to feel like then. And it's noticing like where your mind, I used to think like about myself, I was like, I'm such a great planner. I'm so great at, I don't know, just, and it's like, no, you really have actually a massive problem just living in the future. Like, you're not comfortable in the now, so you need to. And then it's like, The Power of Now is such a good book. If anybody watching this hasn't read it, please read it. It's one of those books that you learn something from every time. And he's like, when you're living in the future, it's like you're always going to be suffering because you're making the future something better than what you're in right now. But instead, you could just
Mm,
be like, I love this blanket over here. It's like my favorite color. It's really comfy. It's or like,
yeah.
wow, look at the wind and like how does the wind feel on my
Mhm.
face? It's like coming
Yeah.
back into the moment and then like bringing it full circle. Like that's where we vibrate from. If we're living in the
Mhm.
future, it's like, well, those things can't come to you if you're thinking about it in the future. The universe could give
Yeah.
it to you right now, but you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is gonna come to me in the future, you know? So
Exactly.
yeah.
I totally agree. I and one thing that I realized that I was so frustrated with myself when people say, visualize and, keep your eye on your goals, and I've got like mixed feelings about that word anyway. But it just felt like I was delaying my joy until
Hmm.
something happened. And
Yeah.
that when I first got into like the manifestation world, and everyone teaches it differently, and I'm sure, what works for someone else, well, then that works for them. But I know for me, visualizing so much of what I want to happen, it makes me feel like it's going to take a lot of time, or it's reminds me that I don't have it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like aggravating, it's like always having the carrot in front of you, like, and you're reaching for
Totally.
it, but you can't get it, right? It's like a tease. Sometimes tease is good, but other times, like that, it's not good. And so I had to realize, like, okay, that doesn't, really work for me. And it also felt like I was escaping, like I was trying to escape right now,
Mm,
when
yeah.
the most empowering moment we have is right now. Anything can come in right now. Like in each moment, there are a gazillion moments in a second. So it's like I'm ignoring the possibility of, that out there happening now, because I keep thinking that it can't happen now because I'm,
Hmm.
seeing it as a goal. Like a goal is typically something you reach for, you work towards. Well, how come it can't come right now? So it's like just being mindful of um what the thing that you want, how you're seeing it and treating it, and just
Yeah.
knowing that you are your point of attraction. So who are you being? Do you have the space in your field, in your energetic field, to have it and hold it right now, right? Because all the universe is asking for is you to be a match for it, right? And so, yeah, I think that was.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that.
I think that that's so true. And it's like, for me, I try to always visualize things happening like in the now. So just something that was
Mhm,
popping in my mind is like when I take a shower sometimes,
mhm.
there's a lot of like natural light in my bathroom. So I won't usually turn lights on. And I'll just
Mhm.
imagine myself like I'm under a waterfall in Bali and like this is so fun. And this is like,
Ooh,
um, and I'm
yeah.
just like, this is so fun. Like, what do the plants look like around me? And I make it a whole experience, but it's not so much like,
Mhm.
when am I going to get to go back? When am I going to who am I going to be there with? It's not like all of this
Yeah.
future planning. So I think too, you can spin things of like, or, oh,
Yeah.
I love how you said, like you can hold it in your body now. So like, what would it feel like?
Mhm.
What would this feel like? How, and an example that I think is so easy is that when you want to have a partner, you can feel all the
Mhm.
feelings that a partner would bring you in this now moment. We just have this illusion
Mhm.
that like there needs to be another person there, but it's like they're not creating those feelings in you. You're creating them.
Right?
So it's like
Yeah.
somewhat a little bit like even with whatever your goal might be, like how could you pretend that you have it now? What would you be feeling if you did have it now? Like, oh, I
Mhm.
see myself on a stage speaking, or I see myself like, I don't know, doing
Yeah.
something cool that you want to do. How would that feel? Like how would I feel about myself? And then it comes back to like how we were talking about in the beginning, like finding these role models and what are they being right
Mhm.
now? That's an easy way to get
Yeah.
to that point. Like, how would you feel when those goals come to you? And then the universe is like, got it. You want it a lot faster. Okay. Here you
Yeah,
go.
exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, I love how you said, feeling it now for sure. And I know for me, like that was really hard for me to do, to like separate, you
Yeah.
know, the fact that like I want it here right now. But Briera, you have to separate yourself and realize it's the feelings. It's the feelings that you want to feel, right?
Yeah.
And it just manifests into the physical, but you have to be the leading energy, right?
Yes.
You
Hmm.
can't be in the energy of lack and expect it to come in, right? So
Hmm.
that changed the game for me, like being the leading energy and knowing that you have to go first. Like the universe is waiting to respond to you. So that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that.
for
Well, I
sure.
think we gave everybody so much great information about so as a wrap, this was all about creating your essence. You vibrate from whatever point you're being at, come into your feminine. We did the power of now.
Yes. Oh, that was the first spiritual book I ever read.
Really?
And yeah, I still have the original copy. My friend recommended it to me in college. And I was like, "You trying to say something?" Like she want to give me a self-development. But I'm so glad she did. Like it rocked my world. So highly recommend The Power of Now. It's an easy read too. So
Yeah. And you're
yeah.
like, just it's a lot of moments that are just like, like,
Yeah.
oh, I've been getting this
Yeah.
all wrong.
Exactly. So simple, which I love. I feel like we don't like how simple it is. We try to complicate how to
Yeah.
live a life that we love when actually it's all
Hmm.
very innate. Like it's supposed to feel like, oh, that's it. Well, yeah. So I love it. I love it.
Totally. And that's, I think, such a good even way to like when we're really in our feminine essence, when we're really honoring that side of us, it
Mm-hmm.
does get like the feminine energy receives, it attracts. It
Mm-hmm.
does get to be that easy. And the masculine side's like, no, we got to overcomplicate it. Like it can't be this easy. The mind's like,
Yeah.
put me to work. But that's where it's like, mind, chill out, relax. You don't have anything to do. Go lay on the hammock. Like the heart's got
Yeah,
this.
exactly. Yeah, just the unlearning. That's a
Yes.
lot of what it is. All the unlearning for sure.
Yeah.
So, mm-hmm.
So much of it we have to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today and for sharing so much magic with everybody.
Yeah.
You guys can follow her at Mental Sugar. Is there a period or a thing? I'm like, what is it called? The thing
Oh,
underneath.
it's mental_sugar.
That's it. Yeah, you guys definitely follow her. Her page is just like a whole, I don't even want to use the word aesthetic because that feels like it's like forced and it's been created, but it's like, it's just your
Mhm.
essence so much.
Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
love it. It makes me feel like vibrant and excited and like soulful whenever I see your stuff pop up. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you, Aly.
Yeah,
We're like sisters. Even if,
pretty much.
yeah.
It's like we're always on a
So
very similar
thank
vibe.
you.
So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I had so much fun. So
yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Well, we could talk about this for so long because there's so many, maybe I'll have you back on because there's so many other like little nooks and crannies we could go in. But thank you
Definitely.
guys, anybody who's watching, thank you for watching. You can follow me at Aly.Wilkins on Instagram. You can follow her mental_sugar on Instagram. And she's also got a podcast you can listen to. So
Yes.
yay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Of
Bye.
course. Bye.